Hi, this is Chatboxing. I'm Sean, and this is going to be a post-fight video about the Anthony Joshua Wladimir Klitschko fight from last night. I've got Sean with me again. How are you, Sean?
Yeah, buzzing, mate. Absolutely fantastic fight. Really looking forward to going into this one with you. How about you?
Yeah, this could be a good one, mate. We'll talk about obviously like the fight itself, and then we can talk about where they both go from here. Let's get started then. First of all, did it live up to expectations?
For me, I think it exceeded expectations massively. I really wasn't sure kind of how long the fight would go. Obviously, anyone that watched it went 11 rounds, which was, I don't know, like unexpected to a degree, because a lot of people were obviously saying that Joshua was going to blow him out inside 6. And then the other side, I had my prediction. I thought Klitschko was going to do him on points. I think one thing that was really or a notable point to take from the fight, was one of my friends said to me, it's 9-1 on both boxers to get knocked down before the fight. And I said, mate, whoever gets knocked down is getting knocked out. It's as simple as that. And both of them got put on their asses, which I think to everyone that was watching was fantastic entertainment.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm really really pleased overall with the outcome of the fight essentially.
Yeah, there were some very nervous moments in there, weren't there? I mean, it started off. I think Joshua was doing all right. I mean, it was quite a slow start, kind of cautious from both of them. I think he was probably edged the first couple at least, just on like activity. I think he did a reasonable job of like keeping quite active, and like every time Klitschko did hit him with a jab, he'd like try and answer back with something. You know what I mean? So nothing major happened until the knockdown. Really, he was kind of keeping it to a certain extent. Well, he was stopping Wladimir from getting into that rhythm with the jab. I thought he did that quite well. Klitschko was a bit more aggressive than I expected as well, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, well, Klitschko had Josh on the back foot like quite a lot of the fight, and if I'm quite honest, I was actually really impressed with seeing Joshua on the back foot, and like you said, like early fight, I mean, I was giving a kind of half drunken scorecard because I was probably about 5 or 6 pints down at the time, and I had Josh actually 5-1 up, possibly after the knockdown. No, I had Josh 5-1 up, I think. At some point, I remember saying, and I really thought he established himself well at the start of the fight. I mean, I thought Klitschko was going to go in, kind of nick the first few rounds, and I thought Joshua was kind of going to warm up to the fight. But I think it was actually the opposite. I think Klitschko essentially was a person that was warming up himself, really.
He, he looked very dangerous, didn't he, Klitschko? He looked like he had a real intent about him, and it was quite nerve-wracking, really, for even when he was. Because there was a couple of times, well, I think he got him with one big right hand, like before the knockdown. And there was a couple of times where you thought he's open here because he got him with quite a few good jabs as well. Like we're talking about the lack of head movement and the lack of. Well, he's basically a bit of a sitting duck, really, wasn't he, Joshua? I mean, the thing that sort of protected him for me was the fact that he was always answering everything. So
Yeah,
Klitschko never really thought that he could just go in there and take liberties. Even though he like landed a couple of punches, he was still wary of what was coming back at him. So he managed to do that quite well, Joshua. I think that was the most successful thing he did really in the first part of the fight. When he knocked him down, did you think that was it? First time?
well, initially on the knockdown, whenever Joshua knocks anyone down, then yeah, of course you think it's it, mate, because the geezer's a fucking machine. But you've got to note, I mean, I noticed after Klitschko got up, he won the round from then onwards. He looked much better than Joshua. I couldn't believe how much Klitschko got
Yeah.
up, showed so much heart, and then got up, and I thought he really stuck it to Joshua afterwards. And had Joshua not knocked him down, it wouldn't have been a 10-8 whatsoever. Like it would have
Oh,
definitely gone to Klitschko after that. Like
yeah, well, I mean, he basically won the round, didn't he? Besides the knockdown.
yeah,
I mean, he played brilliantly. I mean, Klitschko, people have, everyone's sort of criticised him a lot in the past of like when things aren't going his way. Myself included, I've done this. When things aren't going his way, he doesn't really respond that well. in this one, like, he got knocked down like by obviously Joshua's very good finisher, and he's not just hitting you with ones and twos; he's unloading on you like combinations.
Yeah.
So for him to get through that and then come out of it on top, and basically like put it on Joshua like towards the end of that round. I mean, I thought he was going to get stopped at the end of that round.
Yeah.
Looked like it, didn't he? At one point he was on the ropes, just literally taking him, and Klitschko was really giving it to him. I mean, it was an amazing turnaround.
Yeah, so really good point. I mean, at that point, like I was sitting with the boys at the table, and I said Josh was absolutely gassing because he really looked fucked. I mean, round 5 and 6, I know he got put on his arse in round 6, but he just looked terrible, didn't he? Like he started the fight fantastically, and then all of a sudden, like many people predicted, he just looked like he was gassing out. He looked like obviously his muscles were starting to fail him, and he looked like he lost his sharpness essentially, and kind of like his ability to perform at his best level. And I found that really interesting to see.
Do you reckon it had anything to do with the fact that he maybe got hurt as well? Because he did look like he sort of gassed out a bit, but like when he fought Dylan White and he got hit with that left hook, he recovered quite slowly, didn't he?
Yeah.
That's the sort of thing that I'm not really sure. I'd have to watch it again, but I wasn't really sure at the time if it was either he was just knackered or he was kind of hurt, possibly a bit of both. But that is a potential thing that we've seen a couple of times now with him, where he doesn't really recover that quickly.
No, and I think that's a lot to do with the fear that people have got with Anthony Joshua, because he's got a 100% kind of knockout record or whatever. I think a lot of people are kind of more cautious to kind of obviously clipping him and then kind of just going full speed into finishing the fight. And fair enough, like you would be. Look at him, like he's a scary geezer to look at in front of you. Even for someone like Klitschko, who's massive. Like Klitschko looked really big before the fight, and you know, like even he would have been very, very weary of Joshua's power. So I can't blame him for. I can't blame Klitschko for not really going in, because you'd always be scared of anything that Joshua would do, wouldn't you?
Yeah, well, but then he came out in the next round, knocked him down. He knocked him down like pretty hard, because when Joshua knocked him down, that was like an accumulation, wasn't it? He hit him about 3 or 4 times, bundled him to the floor almost. Whereas Klitschko just boom, hit him with the right hand, boom, took him down. You could tell that Joshua, obviously being as tired as he was, and from like potentially being hurt from the round before, he did very, very well to come back from that, like to get up and manage to have the composure to sort of stay out of trouble. I mean, that was a massive test that he came through, that 6th round.
It was. And then speaking obviously about the massive test thing, I mean, what did we see from Joshua last night? I mean, we got a lot of questions answered, I thought. And obviously from our pre-fight video, I said that Wladimir was going to school him boxing-wise, and I was proved wrong, to be fair. Like, at the start of the fight, Joshua come out, he was sharp, he looked really good, he was, like you said, answering back to absolutely everything, and I was really, really impressed with Joshua. But then when I look on the other side of it, with Klitschko, like for me, I could see the years had caught up with him. He at times looked fantastic and really sharp, and then at other times he just looked like he was really slow to react to anything. And I think you can really see the fact that he's 41 in certain situations of the fight. I was looking at him just thinking, you could have done a bit better there, and I've seen better from you in the past. I don't know if you saw the same, but I really noticeably saw the best of Klitschko and the worst of Klitschko at various different points of the fight.
He looked, to me, I thought he looked, generally speaking, very good. He looked very quick on his feet. He was moving about well. He had good, I say concentration. Of course, he's going to have good concentration, but he was very focused, and he was. There were a few after I'd say the first 4, they were close rounds, weren't they? I mean, like overall, you'd probably edge most of them, in my opinion, to Joshua just on the work rate.
Agreed.
The middle rounds, Klitschko was winning, definitely, in my opinion. I wasn't really keeping a scorecard because I was just sort of watching it and just enjoying it. But I definitely had the impression going into the 11th that Klitschko was winning. I think like those middle rounds, he was really just stacking up the points there. He obviously like knocked him down heavy in the 6th. From there, he kind of had Joshua on the back foot for at least a couple of rounds. And to me, he looked very good. The only thing I would say is that when Joshua did like turn it up a couple of times, I think it was like the 5th round, he literally came charging out of the corner, didn't he? And just put it straight on him.
Well, that's when he knocked him down. So yeah.
Yeah, he did that again in the 11th. So when he really went like full steam ahead, Klitschko wasn't able to hang with him, and that's probably got quite a lot to do with his age. So yeah, in that respect. But that was only when Joshua really, really forced it out of him, in my opinion. So I think he deserves the credit for that. I mean, in my opinion, that was a very good performance from Klitschko, and to show the recuperation and the heart that he did in the 5th round was amazing, really, because he literally got floored heavily by a really big puncher, really aggressive, 90,000 people going mental. He's 41, he gets up and not only like weathers a storm, but actually like kind of turns the tide and just starts putting a bit of a beating on Joshua. Had him on the ropes, bashing him up a bit. So for me, I was very, very impressed with him. I just think he wasn't quite physically up to it. He couldn't hang with him when Joshua really like sort of put his foot on the gas.
Yeah, well, I don't think anyone can handle Joshua when he puts his foot on the gas, to be honest. Yeah, I was impressed with Klitschko for the whole of last night, and to be fair, like from my prediction, I was rubbing my hands in round 10. I was sitting there thinking, right, he's going to do him my points now. I thought that everything that I had predicted was going to come true. But I will note that as good as Klitschko looked, especially in the second half of the fight, and well, mid round 5 onwards, his head movement was kind of terrible at times, and I thought that he was actually really easy. I thought Joshua found it really easy to land on him, and with Klitschko, you don't necessarily see that. I mean, with Fury's a really awkward fighter, and he did bust Klitschko up a bit, but Klitschko never fought anyone so big and with such a longer reach. So I think it was especially awkward for him to go up against someone like Fury. But with Joshua, like, it was chess, wasn't it? And Joshua was landing more than I had anticipated before the fight.
Yeah, I would say like Klitschko, he is kind of, I mean, as good as he is kind of predictable, isn't he? He's got that kind of bouncy rhythm that he does.
Yeah.
And you know where the punches. You don't necessarily know, like, he's kind of sneaky with them, but you know like what he's looking for. Because when he hurt him, like in the 6th round, I said to my mate, he's just going to fucking go for that left hook now, like this round. He's literally just swinging it, wasn't he? Joshua, that was something that really impressed me about him, because even though he just been pretty much nearly knocked out, he got up and he still had the sharpness of his brain and the reactions and the agility, basically, to sort of duck under like those big swings, like about 4 or 5 of them he did in a row. Mixed them up a little bit, but he kept looking for that big leaping left hook. And Joshua could manage to like sort of avoid him each time. Then he managed to sort of get his hand up and block a couple. But yeah, Klitschko, he was a little bit predictable, as good as he was. So I do think that Joshua potentially would have more trouble hitting. I mean, if you're talking about him in with like Tyson Fury, for example, there's no way he's going to be hitting him as often as he did hit Klitschko tonight. I'd say that much.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Definitely point made there. I mean, I just want to highlight again. Have you ever seen Anthony Joshua fight on the back foot?
No.
No. And one thing that all boxing fans have been answered last night was the fact that he can fight on the back foot and yet still win. So Anthony Joshua, and I've never said it in my life until last night, can actually box. I always thought he was just a demolition machine. I thought he was a monster, and that's all he's got going for him. Like I see Wilder, but Joshua, yeah, like I think he proved that, yeah, he can go tit for tat with some of the best boxers in the game.
He's got a good head on his shoulders. Joshua.
Yeah.
You can tell he's got a good brain. He thinks. He's composed. when he got Klitschko hurt a few times, he wasn't like steaming in like Deontay Wilder, Amir Khan, kind of just just swinging wild punches. He was like picking his spots, keeping his composure, even at that moment with the lack of experience that he had, with the size of the occasion, the energy of the crowd, and just that moment of having like the sort of the Don, basically the heavyweight division, having him hurt, but he's still there, like kind of picking his spots, giving himself a bit of space, changing up the angle slightly, and really making sure that his punches count. That to me is impressive about Joshua, the way his composure and the way he doesn't. Yeah, he's like a bit like, I don't know. I suppose you compare him to Kovalev. That's it. He's kind of a bit like that. He's really like kind of demolition orientated, but he's not just there. Like he'll kind of pick his spot, patient, and he'll pick away at you. So that's what he did, in my opinion, which I think is pretty good. Okay, a couple of things then before we move on to where they go from here. Obviously, there's always ways you can like pick holes in things and try and criticise stuff. Were there any negatives for you and Joshua?
Negatives, absolutely. I think that he's definitely, like, for me, he's not the finished article. Again, like, we need to all remember he did fight a 41-year-old Wladimir Klitschko. Would have loved to see Joshua now against a, let's say, 35-year-old, or well, let's say 37-year-old Wladimir Klitschko. I think it would have been a possibly better fight than it was tonight. I don't know whether the best Klitschko turned up or not, but I was really impressed with Klitschko. I thought he really done himself justice, regardless of losing the fight. He lost the first half of the fight quite comprehensively, but he came back and really stuck it on Joshua. And I think Joshua's corner probably said to him, if you don't fucking do something, then you're gonna lose the fight. And I don't know, like, as much as I said in the pre-fight video that I thought that there was a possibility that it could be a tight fight, and if it went to points that Vlad would have lost. I think if it did go to points, I think Joshua would have lost that fight, and I don't think the judges would have taken that away from him. Essentially, taken away from Wladimir, I'll say.
No, I don't think so. Like, to be honest, like with that, because the crowd was very good. The crowd was really respectful of Klitschko. He really kind of won him over, didn't he? Because obviously he went in there as not the villain, but the one that everybody wanted to see lose. They still obviously wanted to see him lose, but he definitely had a lot of respect from the crowd. The performance he put in, the way he did that fight. In terms of negatives, for me, I would say the fact that he did kind of gas out, didn't he? Whether that was that he didn't recover very well from the shot, whether it was the lack of stamina, it doesn't really matter, because it's either way he did look quite vulnerable in there at times.
Agreed. Yeah.
So you're thinking if he's in there with someone like, for example, Deontay Wilder, who hits as hard as he does, you can't afford to be, having like moments where you're basically out there and you're not really throwing that much back. Do you know what I mean? If he'd been in there, I'm not saying he'd lose to Deontay Wilder or anything like that, but that kind of puncher, when you're effectively taking time off because you're sort of out of the game for whatever reason, it could be very, very dangerous for him. So that's something that I'd like to see addressed, if it could be.
Yeah. Well, I think one thing to say, it was Gerald Washington, wasn't it, that fought Wilder last? And he was boxing the arse off Wilder, wasn't he? And one thing we'll take from last night, like I said, was that Joshua was boxing fantastically, especially for the first half of the fight. And then even though he's losing the second half, he was still doing all right. And I did rate him for that. So I rate him as a boxer, like, definitely now. Wilder, I don't rate as a boxer whatsoever. He is a demolition machine. Although he's got so many more fights under his belt than Joshua, I'd be so interested to see the fight between Joshua and Wilder, because now I've seen that Joshua can actually box and actually play chess the way he did. I don't know, like, I'd be really interested to see how he deals with Wilder's height, kind of obviously same kind of physical physique, and obviously like punching power. I think that's the fight that we need to see.
Well, the thing with Wilder, he's got everyone's. I mean, he's got very bad footwork, and he's very poor balance, and his flaws are quite obvious.
Yeah.
But at the same time, he's very quick on his feet, and he's got very long reach. Now, I don't know this. I don't have the sort of figures here or what the numbers, but he's definitely, to me, it seems like he's got a longer reach than Joshua.
Absolutely.
He's got a fucking sledgehammer of a right hand. He's got a half decent jab, like when he wants to use it. Because I saw the the Stavern fight. I know Bermain Stavern is not really that great.
But Stavern's only 6'3", just to interrupt, isn't he? Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's sort of tailor-made for Wilder, especially to put in that performance. But he's at least shown that he does have the ability to do it, albeit against a not really comparable fighter in terms of ability or dimensions.
Yeah.
But I think he's kind of dangerous, obviously, like from long. And if I would definitely pick Joshua to beat Wilder, I think he's a much better fighter all round. But that kind of, if you're like in round 6 and you're basically out on your feet and you're there to be hit, that's a dangerous place to be with Wilder. Do you know what I mean? If you're not fully switched on, fully able to protect yourself, and able to like sort of keep him off you with like hard punches of your own, then you could have problems.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think a good point to take from that is like when we saw Joshua get clipped last night, we saw how vulnerable he is. And one of my friends actually knows one of the trainers that works with Joshua and says when he gets clipped, he is very, very vulnerable. And I think Wilder's the sort of person that, Joshua could probably outbox for the best part of a fight. But if Wilder lands one haymaker on Joshua, then I'd worry about the steadiness of his legs and how he actually copes with that. And I think that would be, I don't know. I think that's the most interesting part of that fight. I think it's the only fight in the heavyweight division that is really, really worth talking about, because you've got two absolute knockout artists going against each other. Deontay Wilder's massive. Joshua's now proven, because he's shown that he can fight against someone who's got power, who's massive, really good boxer, and Joshua's gone and done the job. So I think a good point to go on from there was where do you think Joshua goes from now?
Well, I think, if I'm not mistaken, Luis Ortiz is mandatory for the IBF.
Yeah.
No, I think for Pulev, the IBF. Luis Ortiz for the WBA.
Okay.
So that's one fight that's going to be around the corner. That's an interesting fight, definitely. I like Luis Ortiz. Pulev as well, potentially. Like that. I'd like to see it. It's obviously a lot better than Dominic Brazil, Eric Molina. But I prefer to see him against Luis Ortiz.
Yeah, great.
Called out like Tyson Fury. I don't know if he necessarily called him out, but obviously you're in London, big event. He's just beaten Klitschko, like what Fury did like a couple of years ago in Germany, which is a slightly different thing. But he's there, and he's in London. Fury's been giving it a lot, hasn't he? Like on Twitter, a lot of social media, Instagram, all this, just kind of giving Joshua a bit of shit. So he's there, like saying, Fury, call it, let's have it. Like, where are you? So that's obviously a very interesting one for the future. If Fury, he's training now, isn't he? Again, he's with Billy Joe Saunders in Marbella.
Yeah, you see him training, but at the same time, Fury looks like a fucking blob at the minute, doesn't he? I mean, it's going to take him months upon months to get rid of all that fat and get back to fighting condition.
But that, for me, will be the one for the future. If you're looking like the one to really look forward to, Fury, like at his best, if he can come back to that, that's basically like the fight I want to see. Obviously Wilder as well, bit more realistic now. Joseph Parker potentially. I think Joseph Parker and Wilder, although that's what people are talking about, isn't it? If those two fight, who would you pick in that fight? Because the idea that the winner of that to then fight Joshua now.
Well, quite honestly, I actually see Wilder just demolishing Parker at some point in the fight. I think it could be an entertaining fight to watch, but
Oh.
yeah, at some point I see Parker getting clipped. I think he's too small, and Wilder would take advantage of that, and he'd dispatch him at the point that he sees it fitting. Essentially, don't know how you feel about it.
I've seen quite a few of Parker's fights. The last couple of fights, he impressed me against John Ruiz. John Ruiz, not John Ruiz, Andy Ruiz. Sorry,
Yeah,
John, yeah, against Andy Ruiz. I thought it was a close-ish fight, but I definitely think he won.
he did.
Clearly,
No, he did win. Yeah.
and I think he showed it. But a lot of people saying like Andy Ruiz won.
No,
I can't see that at all myself.
No.
I thought he fought a good, disciplined fight, and he showed me something different. He showed me he could sort of fight on the back foot, and he was quite clever. Against Takam, I think Takam kind of let him off the hook a little bit. He sort of gassed out, didn't he? Similar to how Joshua did, because I think he hurt Takam in like similar like 4-3. He kind of got a bit carried away, unloaded a bit, and then he had a couple of rounds off. Takam, for whatever reason, didn't really sort of force the issue. He got back into it and then comfortably won on points at the end. So he's shown me quite a lot, Parker. Wilder, he's basically sort of knocked everyone out, hasn't he? He kind of gets, generally he'll be getting outboxed by someone, and then at some point he just sort of knocks them out.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Against the Verne, I think he has a good performance, and he kind of boxed quite well on the move. But I do think some basically, by heavyweight standards, sort of short, fat, plodder, very predictable, was never really able to get near him. So, I don't know, it's difficult to really tell. You know what to expect from Wilder, you know what I mean? Difficult to really expect much else from him. Personally, I would expect him, to knock Parker out. I don't think Parker's sort of big enough, really, to Wilder. I think Wilder can keep him at range, and at some point he's going to get hit with the right hand. Unless you can basically take Wilder out, which I think Anthony Joshua can do. He can just basically blitz him.
Yeah.
Or you can just sort of outbox him and keep yourself out of danger, like I think Tyson Fury will be able to. I don't see, unless you can do one of those two, it's not much of an insight, that is it. But you know what I mean? Parker can't really do either of those, in my opinion, to Wilder. Or at least it's unlikely that he can. So I don't see him being able to go 12 rounds without getting knocked out.
Nah, totally agree. And what I will add is I don't see Parker taking a fight that essentially he is very likely to lose, which I think for his camp, I think the Hughie Fury fight really suited them, and that's why they were willing to take it. And obviously Hughie's pulled out because of an apparent injury. Don't know how true that is or not. But back to the fight we're talking about. Do you think Klitschko's going to initiate his rematch clause? Do you actually think that's going to happen?
To be honest with you, I hope he doesn't. Really, yeah. I think he finished on a very. If that was his last fight, I think he'd done himself very, very proud. I think he finished on quite a high note. And after the Tyson Fury one, where he just kind of got really outboxed and just didn't really have a clue, it was just quite a poor performance from him. There, he really went out and tried to win it, but we talked about how he came back into and all that. So for me, he's left now with real respect. Everybody respects that performance. I don't really see him being able to beat Joshua in the rematch. So, he's a very, very competitive man, isn't he? So he'll obviously have his own idea of how the rematch would go. But personally, I think this would be quite a good place to leave it. He doesn't have anything else to prove, does he?
No.
Do you know what I mean? He could still go on and beat quite a lot of people. Well, I don't doubt that at all. But I wouldn't pick him in a Joshua rematch. I don't really think it's going out on 3 defeats in a row would be the best way to go about it. Maybe the next one he goes in, doesn't put on a very good performance, just gets battered, and then it doesn't quite look as good, does it, for him to finish his legacy? For me, after the career that he's had, to take on that challenge at 41, put in that performance.
Well, 42 if it happened, but yeah.
Well, I'm saying to put the performance that he's had now, to have that career, to have the bollocks basically to fight Joshua at Wembley, at that time and then put on that performance. For me, I'd quite like to see that as the end of his career rather than like just coming back and just getting knocked out again. I don't know how you see it.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with what you said. So, another question that I'd like to pose to you. What sort of Fury? I mean, the next apparent fight is not going to be Deontay Wilder, apparently. So we've kind of half discussed earlier in the video. So Fury looks like the most attractive fight, and to be honest, if I was in Joshua's position, it's the best time to catch Fury because he's fat, he's overweight, he's got a husky voice. It seems like he's been out on the beers and doing gear constantly and whatever. He sounds awful, doesn't he? Like when you listen to him in current videos. And all respect to Fury, I love him. Say again?
Sounds like Johnny Vegas sometimes.
Yeah, he sounds awful. So, I mean, it sounds like the perfect time for Anthony Joshua to call Fury out because really, like even with a 3-month training camp, Fury's still gonna not be at his best essentially, I think. So I think Joshua's in a great position to call him out and then do the job on him.
Well, what I'd like to see, I mean, I don't know if it's true, I don't know if it's plausible, but if Fury can fight on the undercard of Billy Joe Saunders and Danny DeVito, then we see how he looks there. Obviously, he's not going to be looking great, but he could fight against someone, you know, who can give him like some rounds. He's got natural fitness about him, Tyson Fury. Now, not saying in the state that he is now, he can go 12 rounds. I've seen him quite a few times, like out of shape, been out on the piss, like for the night before the fight, according to him, and still like fight at like quite an intense pace, go loads of rounds. He's just got that natural fitness about him. Do you know what I mean? And he's naturally a very, he's got quite very fluid movement. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. He doesn't in 100% prime condition to be able to like do the things that he does well. Obviously, if he's going to be competing with the likes of Anthony Joshua, you want him to be in like as good a condition as he can be. But if I'd like to see him do that and then come back into it a little bit. I don't want to see him go straight in there with Joshua now. I want to see them both at their best.
Yeah. Okay. Right. So that's a good point made. So look, Fury inevitably needs a warm-up fight. I can't even remember the name of the geezer that I saw on IFL that he had some kind of little small beef with. He had a small beef with someone.
Manuel Char.
What's his name?
Manuel Char.
Manuel Char.
Manuel Char.
So yeah, they could be very well setting up a kind of. Say again.
Yeah, it's Char. Is it Man? I think it's Manuel Char. It's Char is the surname, definitely.
I actually don't even know. I'm not even going to lie to you. I've never heard of the geezer prior to Fury and him getting a bit lippy at ringside. But yeah, no, he does need a warm-up fight. I can see that happening. And in the meantime, I mean, it goes back to the question, like, who does Joshua wait next? Like, he's not going to wait 6 months, is he, for his next fight? Like, 6 months is a long time. Like, is it?
Well, mandatory challenges. He's got Pulev and he's got Ortiz.
Ortiz, yeah, he has got both of them. I mean, like, I think that he would absolutely